They're gonna kill the love of my life.
Casey!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide, now playing. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone. This is Llorraine Neithardt, your host for Venus Unplugged. And what we do here at Venus Unplugged is we explore all things Venusian, the archetype of Venus or Aphrodite in our psyches, in our souls, the way of the feminine, both in men and women, the beauty and not beauty, all things that have to do with Venus, from the everyday woundedness of Venus and its journey towards the soul. So what we've been exploring is the Dionysian mysteries, the Dionysian initiations at the Villa of Mysteries in Pompeii. But before I jump into that, I want to inform those who are on this wavelength that next week, Tuesday, the first full moon of the new year is the most powerful, particularly for prophetic dreams and insights, and those who are into crystal ball reading or whatever you're up to, whatever you're using, or water or tarot cards, for exploring the beloved who's coming into your life. So it's really particularly good for that, but it is the most powerful. So those that are into that, you got to dust your broom now, and you got to get out there and work with that moon energy and see what she foretells, and start to understand this Venus energy. Or it also can tell who's coming in your life, who's leaving your life. Matters of the heart. So there's that. And I want to also mention that when I speak, what's going on also in this Venus Unplugged extravaganza, I was going to just give simple little sentences, but of course that's never going to work. It's almost as if, particularly when it comes to mysteries and initiations, you need to, for those that are into astrology, look at or find your inner Gemini, because the Gemini is the symbol of paradox and does not have a difficult time seeing the light in the dark and the dark in the light. It's when it gets separated, it gets confusing. So look at your charts and see where your Gemini is and call that energy forth, and through that imagination, because it's through images that the great teachings come. And that the male and female are equal aspects of the whole. So as we're going through these mysteries, I also posted on Facebook, and I'll have it on the Pinterest under the board Jungian Women. I finally found a really beautiful video that shows you the chambers of the mysteries. Now, the text, don't pay any attention to the commentary. It's a very kind of, it's just how they view it. They take it like literally, which is always dangerous. But the images are there. You get a sense of being in the room. You can see the scenes. So that will help in imagining, because this is all about evoking the mysteries, what is unknown. Now, the tricky part of mysteries is, in truth, we never really understand it from the intellect. We got to drop that shit because it's not going to tell us. The ego and the intellect, it's like, no, it's all mine. I want to see this. You want to nail it down. Where in mystery, it flows from the depths of psyche. She'll give you active imagination. Suddenly something, you'll make an association, or you're either listening to this or looking at this beautiful chamber. So it was thought that this Villa of Mysteries was for brides, because the woman comes in, the initiate comes in as a bride, but it really is a stage of life that she's going to, like, be transformed, let go of. So we are exploring the 8th scene in the Villa of Mysteries. So there's this dark angel, pretty terrifying, but really cool nonetheless. And so we come to the 8th scene, which is connected with the 7th through the central symbol of the angel, common to both. In the 8th scene, the gaze of the angel is directed upon the first woman's figure, and it is against her that the angel raises the whip, intending to strike. That's pretty powerful stuff. But the 8th scene no longer runs along the short wall of the chamber, but along the long wall of the outer world, which has a window in the middle of it. Now, none of this is because they ran out of wall space. It's all purposeful. It's like in a dream. Every little detail means something. If it goes left, if it goes right, if it's 2, if it's 3, it's, you could work on one dream for years. And I have certain dreams that keep on coming up again and again to be looked at, as if I were in a chamber of mystery in my own psyche. So we've got this startling scene of this dark angel, and but this whip, this strike, it's not for a torture. It's more about the awakening, and that this angel comes forth. It's like, and anyone who's had even a moment of initiation just means like, okay, it's all changing, or it can we can be initiated by a shift in consciousness, a change in our charts, a major love affair, a break, a death. These are all initiation rites. And if we take them as ordinary, besides being boring, life won't mean much. But if we begin to see that these things of life, these trials and tribulations, are the very storytelling, the very essence of the story of life. That's what these women were doing. They would consciously go into the Villa of Mysteries to be born, and in some ways to prepare for death. But it's not just death of the ego; it's like physical death. It's preparing. You've been the bride, you've been the mother, you've been the wife, you've been the courtesan. You rock the world, and now all that stuff needs to be put down. We need to see what is the value, what's been cooking behind or within this thing we have called life. So the initiate, we say you've got this dark angel, it'll whip you, smack you into consciousness, awaken you, but it's very different, because the initiate in this school of mysteries, she's not terrified. She sits with the priestess, and there's this despairing woman of the 8th scene is the initiate, who is already, before the blow, suffering under chastisement from the angel. Imagine an angel coming in and bitch slapping you. Well, that would surely be memorable, right? that the angel has cut her off from the divine, which seems to have already been within reach. That is the initiate's torture. I don't know why I make this association, but I guess it's my divine child within. It's like, when you get your ice cream and it's on a cone and you go to lick it and it's going to be divine, and then it rolls off the cone. Well, that's a moment where you're about to just touch the divine. You can have it, and it's no longer there. So some people used to kiss it up to God and pick it up anyway. That's what some people did. I'm not saying who. And it was like, all right, well, God is everything, including that dirt, so I'll just wipe that off and go back to my initiation of ecstasy of ice cream. So that's kind of the, very mundane image of the divine in everyday life, because it is always there. So this angel really knows exactly what it's doing. And that's her torture. She feels disconnected. So then what happens is then the initiate is racked with feelings of unworthiness and helpless destitution, with which she has cast herself into the lap of the priestess in her chastisement. The angel's blow, which reaches her here in the truly frightful situation, is certainly no torture. It is, on the contrary, it's forgiveness, which can come as a blow. When you forgive somebody, you take all that nasty stuff away from them. We're not playing this game anymore. Give me that. I don't have a dog in this fight, and therefore the fight's up. So that's the kind of awesomeness of, or maybe perhaps we could see that as the shadow of forgiveness. It's not sweetness and light. It's no. I'm taking this back. I am not playing this anymore. I am not participating in imagination, in thinking, in feeling. You don't get one more moment of my energy. Basta. Done. Finished. I forgive. Wow. That's intense. But that's what happens when we forgive. And a lot of times, because we don't understand it, or we think that the other person is going to better, it's not. It's like, why are you still standing at that bus stop, man? That bus ain't coming. And all of life that goes by in that state. So it's not goody-good. Forgiveness is terrifying, as this angel lets us know. Because the gig's up, and the initiate is met with the blinding light of self-learned wisdom. That's what happens. We work and work and work, consciousness, becoming aware, whatever that might be. And, as we're seeing in the world today, consciousness of shadow and light is probably really the only game in town, because to imagine the world being peaceful, well, that's childish, because that's not what this world is for. But to take on our own shadow, our own inner terrorist, and we've all got one, that which is which within, that you look in the mirror and what you see is not what's truly there, and you're seeing it through the eyes of the witch or the inner terrorist that's just telling you, just die, you're worthless because of, just finish the sentence. So if we just got busy clearing that stuff up and integrating it and going, okay, my inner terrorist needs to take a walk, and I need to let it out, so I can let it out in a poem or a dance or a movement. It has to live. We don't kill it. We can't kill it. It's absurd, because that's repression, and it's going to show out in the world. Whatever we do not know about ourselves returns to us as fate. So someone who is very spiritually righteous, the shadow of that is terrorism, because that's spiritual terrorism. Why do I have to believe your image of the divine? I think religions are very important to give us a fundamental sense of, like it's like a coloring book. But then it's your experience, it's your initiation that we go through, that we experience the divine. Otherwise, it's just animus opinions. Really? Were you there? Did you experience that? No, but I read it. No, go do it. Do you really want to call this angel into your life? Because angels aren't, they're deeply loving, but it's cosmic. It's divine love. Do you know the frequency of that? We may only be able to perceive them just a little hint, because the rest would just blow us apart. We're human. And that is part of our divinity, is remembering that spark. So this angel comes in, and instead of striking the initiate, because the initiate already knows, she's already gone through her terrible dark night of the soul in the 6th and 7th scene, she's forgiven. And she becomes wise. Or the first step of that, or that she can have that. So only when she herself is nothing can she receive everything. Then, through the whiplash of the Dionysian spirit, she is redeemed. Dun, 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 dun. Right? Redeemed. This happens. And it's not based. We need to make a conscious effort, because the thing about an initiation is we're concentrated. It's shut off from all of the collective values. What they think, whoever they may be, this army of they-ness. So this is what happens when we are initiated through our dreams, or we're initiated through a heartbreak, or we're initiated through a death or a birth or a marriage. All these rituals, they actually all take place in a different time space. See, Saturn rules time, but Saturn also rules the wise old man. Then when we learn something, if we've really learned it, we just don't randomly give out, give in, or give away. People or situations need to be tested. Yeah, you say you're a true friend, but let's see. Or you'll promise that you'll never do this, so let's see. That's what Saturn teaches us. It teaches us how to be in right relationship and balance. Saturn does not give anybody anything before it's allotted time, before it's earned time. And a lot of people have, don't really like that, because they really believe what they want to say, or what they do say. But that's the ego. Until Psyche speaks, we don't know. But that dreams tell us how Psyche perceives things, and initiations tell us they're living reenactments of forces beyond time and space, as if a moment of eternity comes, peeks through. So this is what the initiate needs to do, where she must differentiate herself, or must be differentiated from everything she is not. So it's very interesting. We can write a list of who we are and who we are not. And sometimes we think we're something, but we're really not. So this is what begins to happen here. So it always presents relationship and at the same time differentiation. While relationship with a God-filled nature was first established for the initiate, that was in the third scene, she was at the same time differentiated from the world and its titanic greed. Now, going back to the story of Amor and Psyche, or Eros and Psyche, remember her first task is to separate the mountain of seeds. That's differentiation. Without differentiation, we can't tell the difference between the moon and New York City. We can't tell the difference between truth and a horse's ass. Differentiation. This is this here, and that is that. So differentiation does not come from the mind or the ego. It's a different kind of separateness. We can tell the difference between good and evil, most of all within ourselves. We can tell the difference between when our shadow is up, but we're justifying it. It's like, nah, all right, it spoke or it acted. Now, can it turn to gold, where it had me say the wrong thing at the right time to the wrong person? And then we have to become accountable. Well, there is a part of me that finds that's true. Because people want to be absolutely certain. Well, that's a setup. Certain in that moment to the best of my ability. But no one has the right to take away your capacity for growth. Because in the growing, we discern or understand differently. Or when someone wants a promise for eternity, do you have any idea how big eternity is? How could you possibly make that promise? Maybe forever, okay? Because forever is kind of on this side of Saturn. But eternity? Nah. Can't do that one. So here she is, and she's been forgiven, which is very, very difficult. Because now she's in a whole new territory. Now she has to differentiate. And that same thing happens with us as human beings. So if we are to, when we are unconscious, we'll always transgress. And as long as woman is identified with the world, she lays violent hands on it. As long as she is identified with the principle of relatedness, she lays violent hands upon people and things. And as long as she's identified with the animus, she lays violent hands on the spirit. So this is all when we're animus possessed, the negative animus. It's opinionated. It's just opinions. Not based on a living truth. It's gossip. They have it on the highest, and you can smell it. When a woman is saying something, it's like, oh, man, get me out of the room now. Or, it's necessary for women to come together. And one of the things in this initiation, right, at first the initiate rejects the priestess and any counsel from the priestess or other women. And then after this scene, she kind of sits in or rests her head on the priestess' lap, meaning she's needing to connect to the principle of relatedness. But she also does not need advice from the priestess because she knows something. She's been initiated into something that no one, no external force can give advice to. The priestess can be in a related empathy, but there's really nothing to say. Of course, not only does this experience need to be differentiated, then it needs to be integrated. Because as this is beginning to happen, guess what's going to happen? The self, with the big S, is going to show up. And that's what the purpose of the Jungian work, is the connection of soul and self and body coming in and being embodied. That's what wholeness is. So also knows this. So the women come together, but not to have a negative animus fest. And I just thought that. And, very often women will get together and they become like the negative animus or Dionysus, and they rip the man apart. The dude can do no right just by the very fact of being male. And males do that with women too. But if we became conscious in the moment, wait, I'm having a Dionysian moment, I'm ripping this. Sometimes it's just pure character assassination by the very fact that you're male, which is pretty scary. But if there's no consciousness, in this case, it can have a purpose because you're in an initiation, so that stuff can come forth. But in everyday life, no. No. It's not that you can't discern whether somebody is being a danger to the evolution of your soul. But no negative animus fest. It's not worth it. It's exhausting. So she begins to realize this. She is in touch with an aspect beyond time-space, with an aspect of eternity. And I'm sure it's happened to everyone, or it's about ready to happen, or you're about ready to remember. There have been moments in your life where you just didn't have the answer, thank God. The only thing that rung true was the question. And we slowly, as we begin to get an answer to a mystery, what happens? We're really in the process of death. The ego is dying. We're always in the process of death because every day we get older. Time is something we can never get back, which is why it is precious. And you don't waste it on opinions and things that can't be done. You get busy working on your own garden, your own sense of self. All right? So this theme comes in to the initiate where she begins to have a relationship, a spark of knowing of this profound threshold called death. So this is not an initiation of the bride, unless, of course, you're the bride of death. This is not an initiation, as they thought, to the bride. This is an initiation to another dimension. So that is what the eighth scene offers, and much more. So the myth of the feminine figures who originate from these mysteries, go on either Facebook or Pinterest and really go into the so you can look at them, so you can feel them, all right? And we will finish this up next week. And also, don't forget, the new moon, dust your brooms, get your visions going, and don't get caught up in the negative animus of what other people are saying or thinking, particularly about what's going on in the world. Get in and befriend and work with your own inner terrorist, and that's one less hook that the world can have where we act out. It's so much easier to act out than go in to the dark mystery within. But if you really want to be whole, that's the deal. That's the story, Morning Glory. All right, next week we'll finish this up, and then we will begin again on something else. So, Llorraine Neithardt, if you want to call for an appointment, 212-757-8914, or go on Facebook, or sign up for Blog Talk Radio so you'll get this, or go to my website, LorraineNeithardt.com. Ta-ta!
They're gonna kill the love of my life.
Casey!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide, now playing. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13.